What up, Alfred? Oh, it's going all right. Yeah, I mean, hold up. Let me go grab this. Oh man, I'm over here hiding this shit. Hold up, dog. Fuck, dude. Like, you don't want to go out there, Donnie B. It's too cold, bro. I'm trying to tell you. No, Donnie B. Terrell, you in here? Hell nah. Yeah, can you tell? Does it sound better? He said we got 5 days left for Christmas. I ain't worried about it. Audio is on point. All right then. Shit. Let's get into it. I'm sorry it's quiet. Like I be wanting to ASMR. I'm stupid as shit. All right. So for y'all who don't know, this is the book we reading. Hold up. Atheism and the Case Against Christ. So in this chapter, what chapter are we on anyway? It's called Would God Do Miracles? And the subchapter, if that's what you want to call it, is called Can We Get a Singular Personal God from a Miracle? So basically, he's arguing that even if miracles were something that we could substantiate, there's no reason to posit that the cause of that miracle was a god or one god. It could have been a couple of gods, or it could have been no god and just something else we don't yet have explanation for. So that's essentially the argument he's been making so far. Let's see. Let's back up. Anyway, the critic may object at this point that if it is a person in the form of a human, as Jesus was alleged to have been, and if that person performs a miracle and then claims to be a supernatural agent, then we would have evidence that the source of the miracle is a person. What else could be needed beyond a person performing a miracle to show that the miracle's cause is a person? And who else but an omni being could be responsible? But we must be careful here not to simply grant what needs to be proven. That someone who appears to be a conscious agent with purpose claims that an anomalous event in nature arises from the exercise of his will doesn't imply that it did. It'll take a great deal more to show that he is the cause, that he has control over the cause, or that the event should be understood in only the manner that he instructs. In Mark Twain's A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, Hank, a modern American, Time travels back to 528. He recalls that there is a solar eclipse and fakes being able to control it to demonstrate his magical powers to King Arthur's court to keep them from killing him. If we see a miracle occur and there is a person who claims to have been responsible, then his claims about what the event means are more pieces of evidence that a reasonable observer would have to take under consideration and evaluate. Humans are fallible. There are cases where alleged psychics or paranormalists seem to genuinely believe that they have extraordinary powers, but even they don't realize that what is occurring has a natural explanation and source. Sometimes palm readers and fortune tellers are able to pick up on subtle body language cues, facial expressions, and other discrete indicators without being aware that it is these cold reading techniques that are giving them information instead of their alleged paranormal abilities. If something natural is happening, then the agent may or may not understand what it is. Similarly, if something supernatural is happening, the agent may or may not know what is happening, why, or how. Even if there's a voice from the heavens that claims to be the source of the miraculous event, it may not be. Jesus might have known no more than we do about the real origins of the events that he thought he was able to command at his will. So if I have compelling evidence of a miracle before me, and my goal is to draw some reasonable inferences about what sort of cause may have brought it about, I cannot leap to the conclusion that it is omnipotent, nor should I infer that the cause is all knowing or all good. I should not hastily draw the conclusion that the cause is a single, personal, conscious being either. So, what he's saying is, again, even if a miracle were to occur, there's no reason to posit that the cause of that miracle is a God, or even if it were a God, that there's no reason to suggest that this God is omnipotent, because it could just have enough power to do the thing it did and nothing else. You know what I mean? And there's also no reason to posit that this God is all loving or all knowing. There's just no reason to make that leap given the body of evidence that we have at our disposal. While the occurrence of a miracle might appear to be consistent with the existence of an omni god or perhaps a Christian god, they don't support those stronger conclusions any more than my lifting a bag full of groceries, balancing my checkbook, and giving a homeless person $5 prove that I'm God. It would seem that God could pick up the groceries, do the math, and spare $5. But since so many other lesser natural or supernatural beings could have been responsible, the stronger conclusion for the existence of an omni God is grossly underdetermined by miracle evidence. The occurrence of a real miracle is consistent with any number of possible supernatural explanations, with many of them different from or even incompatible with the existence of the omni god of classical Western monotheism. The evidence is consistent with the responsible force or forces being supernatural, less than divine properties. It more power, knowledge, and goodness than us, but less than God. Could have been a lesser God's mistake, a blind tinkering or a deception. It could have been the Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, Sobek, the Egyptian crocodile god, or Gefjun, the Norwegian goddess of agriculture. What's the status of the God hypothesis in the midst of all these possibilities when we consider our miracle? It has nothing special to recommend it from the miracle alone. These limitations of miracle evidence raise another more fundamental question. Is it even consistent to attribute miracles to an omni being? I mean, that do make sense. I mean, if God is all knowing, all loving, and all powerful, then surely there would be no reason why he would need to perform a miracle, as if to suggest that his initial plan, his initial layout wasn't good enough. And now he has to violate the laws of nature, which he supposedly created in order to fulfill his will. That doesn't make him seem very fucking omniscient or very competent. So there's that. Where was I? Oh, okay. So these limitations of miracle evidence raise another more fundamental question. Is it even consistent to attribute miracles to an omni being? That is our presumption has been that the divine attributes are sufficient for performing miracles. God could do miracles if he chose so. But there are compelling reasons to think that an omni being wouldn't perform miracles. So if we believe one has occurred, we should conclude that God didn't do it. Before I go on to the next one, because now we're at God wouldn't do miracles. Wait, like there we go. But before I get into that, thanks, Jules, for reminding everyone to hit the like button. What's up, Colin? Calasia, one of my favorite people online, period. DJ Dost, another one of my favorite people online. That motherfucker. What's up, homie, man? I'm glad to see you here, son. I'm glad to see all of y'all for real, for real. You know what I mean? Fucking Colin, fucking Calasia, fucking T Manx. You know what I mean? Rain, what's up, Rain? What's up, Theo the painter? I like your image there. The sigil of Lucifer, I believe that is. Very nice. Right. If there was a God, why would you need a miracle? The miracles should have been made already. Exactly. Because if this is an all knowing, all powerful God, then he would have known ahead of time all things that were going to happen before he even created anything. So the fact that he would need to do a miracle as if he somehow forgot, like he didn't know you was going to ask for some shit later on down the line. And then you pray for it. God, could you help me with this? And what's God supposed to do? Like, oh, fuck. I hadn't considered that. You're right. Here, let me go ahead and do that thing for you. It's like, get the fuck out of here. So now if either prayers work and God is not omniscient, or he is omniscient and prayers don't work. You know what I mean? You can't have it both ways, Christians. I mean, I know logic is the Achilles heel to the Christian apologist, but it is what it is. Before I keep going, you're welcome, man. It says, why does he punish us for a mistake he made? Exactly. I mean, this God is ridiculous, but fortunately, we have no reason to believe that it exists. So consider the question now from the other side. Assume that there is an all powerful, all knowing, all good, singular, and personal divine being. What sort of acts would it engage in? That being's actions will perfectly and completely achieve that agent's purposes. Its acts will achieve their ends as fully as they can be fulfilled. The resulting state of affairs will be the perfect manifestation of that agent's will. There won't be any restraint from some external force. There won't be any knowable solution or knowable fact or knowable outcome that such a being wouldn't be aware of. The results will not dissatisfy that being because it will desire something that cannot be had or because it cannot obtain its goals. So, generally, we should assume that if some anomalous event occurs and that event is the result of the exercise of an omni being's will, then the state of affairs produced through that event will be completely and exactly what that being sought to achieve. The results will be as perfect a fulfillment of that being's will as can possibly be achieved. There are cases where finite beings like ourselves seek to accomplish some goal that is beyond our power, or out of ignorance, we employ the wrong means to accomplish our ends. So the results may or may not reflect good intentions, competence, knowledge, or ability. And the results may or may not succeed at getting what we wanted. But an omni being will not fail to achieve its desired ends for lack of ability, incompetence, or ignorance. Consider two computer programming students, Smith and Jones. They're both working on a homework project to produce some output, Y, from an input X using a programming language. Smith creates a circuitous, inefficient, clumsy, and unnecessarily complicated program that fulfills the required task with hundreds of lines of code, the programming equivalent of a Rube Goldberg machine. Smith's program produces the Y output from input X, but it takes lots of time, and the program contains lots of unused and unhelpful features. Jones is smarter than Smith and has a more powerful command of the means at her disposal. She finds a simple, elegant, efficient solution that achieves the same output with a few dozen lines of code with no wasted time and no unnecessary features. The instructor would rightly give Jones the better grade. She has enacted a better solution to the problem. By extension, an omniscient, omnipotent being would achieve the most elegant and effective means to achieve its ends. Omniscience would grasp that solution perfectly, and omnipotence would enact it without any restraint. We would also expect, if that being is infinitely good, morally perfect, or omnibenevolent, then it would have only the highest, most noble, most appropriate goals as targets for the exercise of its will, whatever those might be. As a result, we shouldn't expect lesser, insufficient, or ineffective acts from such a being. A priori, we wouldn't expect to see minor gestures, insignificant events, or trivial results. Unhappy outcomes arise from the actions of a being that lacks foresight, ability, judgment, or virtue. Since, as we have seen, the typical miracles that have been alleged in history could have been brought about by a force or forces that are not all powerful, all knowing, and all good, God would be acting far below capacity if he had done them. Miracles would amount to trivial acts for God. A mere violation of the laws of nature is vastly less than what such a being could accomplish if it chose. Miracles are more superficial, ineffective, and indirect means for achieving ends than an omni God would enact. Consider some of the purpose that have been connected to miracles. If God has the goal of instilling belief, inspiring faith, fortifying resolve, discouraging misbehavior, or enforcing commandments, it takes very little imagination to conceive of more direct, effective, and sustained means of achieving those ends. As Ted Drange has argued, if these were God's goals, then it would have been a simple matter to directly implant belief into all people's minds or to perform more spectacular miracles that would convince more people. Jesus could have reappeared to everyone, not just a handful of easily discredited zealots. Millions of angels disguised as humans could have spread out and preached the word behind the scenes. Or God could have protected the Bible from defects in writing, copying, and translation. Walking on water, turning water into wine, and raising the dead are underpowered, inelegant, clumsy solutions to the various goals that are typically attributed to God when we reflect on what an omni being is capable of. Jesus could have given a more conclusive demonstration of his divinity to more people than raising a single dead man or destroying a fucking fig tree that had no fruit in front of a handful of already converted witnesses. Jesus' resurrection, as it has come to us, was an isolated event. No one seems to have seen the stone being moved or the body being reanimated. Only a few people saw the tomb afterward, and only a tiny group of people had a close encounter with Jesus when he came back. Without exception, the miracles that have been presented in Christianity, as well as in the rest of the world's religions, have been ambiguous, underdocumented, obscure, contentious, underwhelming, and divisive. It takes very little imagination to envision events that would have been vastly more appropriate and effective for a divine being. An infinitely powerful being could have just saved the Israelites instead of exacting the prolonged conflicts with the Pharaoh of Egypt involving plagues, murdering children, parting the Red Sea, and all that nonsense. An omni being could have achieved whatever ends for humanity it had in mind with the entire Jesus saga, whether it is whether it is universal belief or redemption. Sorry, I completely botched that. If God's intentions were to foster confusion and strife, well, then that end was accomplished quite effectively. Believers themselves bicker endlessly and split into tens of thousands of hostile factions over the specific meanings, the events, and the implications of the Bible stories. When we consider the alleged miracles of history with a sufficiently broad conception of what divine power and knowledge would be, no other goals besides divisiveness and confusion can be reasonably inferred. Consider the problem this way: for all of the alleged supernatural miracles in history, natural facsimiles that are undetectable as fakes to anyone but an expert can be performed readily by even mediocre magicians and illusionists. David Copperfield makes the Statue of Liberty disappear on television. Penn and Teller catch bullets in their teeth. Chris Angel walks on water in a swimming pool and floats in the air over the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas. Imagine the social and religious impact these ingenious, natural illusionists could have had among the superstitious, poor, and uneducated masses of New Testament Palestine. Religious leaders such as Billy Graham, Rick Warren, Peter Popoff, Robert Tilton, Joel Osteen, Pat Robertson, and Jerry Falwell use cruder, more transparent trickery and deception to win the hearts of millions of people, and in so doing, acquired vast wealth from educated modern people. My point is not to suggest that Jesus was merely performing sleight of hand tricks, although that is certainly a possibility. My point is that surely an omni God, were he seeking to manifest himself through miracles, could do better than feats that look just like sleight of hand tricks that are so easily faked. It's more reasonable to conclude that an infinitely powerful, knowledgeable, and good being would not perform miracles than to attribute acts to him that our ordinary illusionists could effectively fake. The culture of religions, miracles, and paranormal phenomena is so mired in fabrications, frauds, and confusions that if God were to perform a real one, it would stand the same chance of exoneration as the one innocent man who was mistakenly jailed. Just like every other prisoner, he claims he's innocent. Couldn't an omni being do better than that? Would he allow himself to be so grossly mistaken, maligned, and misunderstood? Why would he make the message ambiguous and impotent and then bury it in history in the midst of so many false miracle claims that look just like it? If some miraculous event occurs, features of it might at first appear to be consistent with omnipotence and omniscience. But then, if we consider the larger picture, that event appears to be less impressive. Whatever God was trying to accomplish, aren't there more effective ways to do it? Couldn't this act have been bigger and smarter? And if so, then the fact that it isn't bigger and smarter or better gives me convincing evidence that that was not God who was responsible. If a reasonable person is confronted with a miracle, they should think, if God were attempting to demonstrate his existence to me, there would be no obstacles. But this miracle is insufficient to the task. So this miracle was not performed by God and does not show his existence. He would do much, much better than this if he were trying to demonstrate his existence. Similarly, if God were attempting to accomplish good in the world, then there would be no obstacle to his achieving much more of it than this miracle does. Suppose that thousands of the sick get healed, or the hungry get fed, or the Red Sea parts to save the Israelites. None of these miracles accomplishes nearly as much as God could. So, it would also be implausible to conclude that a miracle is a manifestation of his infinite power or love. In many examples, God punishes with miracles. Lot's wife gets turned to a pillar of salt for watching the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah when God commanded her not to. The view that Hurricane Katrina was sent by God to punish sinners in New Orleans has been popular among American evangelical preachers. If God were attempting to exact some punishment or retribution through a miracle, then it would be grossly inconsistent to arbitrarily single out some individual for lesser misdeeds while ignoring so many others, particularly when the misdeeds of others are so grievous. An omni being could achieve vast, effective, balanced punishment. So it would be unreasonable to conclude that this miracle is God's punishment. You following along so far? Is this shit making sense? It's making sense to me. You know what I mean? God wouldn't fucking do miracles, is what he's trying to say, goddammit. And if you feel like you have witnessed a miracle, then it's chances are it had nothing to do with God. That's number one. Number two, he also claimed earlier in the book, why is it that we only that we always expect miracles to be fortuitous? You know what I mean? Meaning that why is it that we only attribute that which works in our favor to be a miracle? Why is it never something terrible? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's never that. It's never bad shit that's a miracle. Maybe they call that a curse. I don't fucking know. Or it's just, or maybe it is God's doing, but they'll just say, oh, well, you know, he works in mysterious ways. It just means you can't fucking explain what's going on here. Mysterious ways. I got your mysterious way. Okay. Fuck out of here. Christians are so fucking stupid. Anywho, what we got going on? He said Joel Oil Sheen. I love it. Harley Gang. If I were to pick a Harley, it would definitely be a Fat Boy. I have no idea what a Fat Boy is. I like choppers though. It's all clear. Pantera rules. Yip yup. Seeing Pantera next year. Can't wait. God Hates Us All by Slayer. Yeah, I love that song. I think that song is called Disciple, actually. I don't think it's called God Hates Us All. God Hates Us All, I believe, is the name of the album. But Disciple, I believe, is the name of the song. Which both are fucking dope, to be honest. Like, I fucking love Slayer. You know what I mean? Someone had asked me the other day, like, how I felt about the song Repentless, because I guess that's like their favorite Slayer song. I fucking love Repentless. I still say that, like, Rain in Blood and Supremacist, Rain in Blood, Angel of Death, Here Comes the Pain, Disciple. Like, those are my favorite songs by them. And also fucking fuck, I just fucking talking about Repentless. Yeah. I mean, there's others too, 'cause I fucking love Slayer, but like those are like up to the top for me. You know what I mean? Right. The Christian God loves us, but he made hell. That don't make any goddamn sense. And hell isn't even really like that. There is no concept of like eternal torment in a place of fire and brimstone mentioned anywhere in the fucking Old Testament, meaning the fucking Torah, the fucking Tanakh. You know what I mean? There's none of that shit. You know what I mean? There was the concept of like Sheol, you know what I mean? Hades, but like those weren't supernatural places. You know what I mean? It was just basically their concept of which was before. That's why in Ecclesiastes, one of my favorite verses, Ecclesiastes 3:19 and 20, where he said, fucking, we, all of us come from dirt. We all breathe the same air, us and the animals, and that we have no superiority over the animals. It says, as one dies, so dies the other. Everything is meaningless. You know what I mean? It says we all come from dust, and to dust we all return. Period. Like that's real shit right there. You know what I mean? That's like one of the few verses in the Bible that I can get behind. I'm like, yeah, that's real talk right there, straight up. Like, yeah, ain't no fucking heaven and hell. It's just nigga, we have no advantage over the animals. That's what it said. We have humans have no advantage over the animals. All draw the same air, goddamn it, and we all go into the same place. Period. Hitler, Mother Teresa, you, me, we all going to the same place, goddamn it. It don't fucking matter what you did or didn't do in this life. We all go to the same place, motherfucker. Okay. So there's no fucking heaven. There's no fucking hell. The hell out of here. I mean, and then even if there were, how the fuck you gonna get there? Ain't no souls, motherfucker. That's obvious as shit. Ain't no fucking souls. Period. Like, I feel like motherfuckers who still cling on to the notion of souls, heavens and hells, demons, ghosts, ghouls, goblins, gods, and whatnot. need to seriously grow up, like sooner than later. Okay. Either present some evidence for any of this fucking shit or shut the fuck up. Okay. Like, no one cares about your fairy tale. All right. That shit out of here. Where were we? Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. If a reasonable person has thought through the implications of what it would be for an omni being to act, the reaction should be something like, "That's it? That's the best you've got? How am I supposed to believe in an omni being on the basis of that? Any old demigod could do that." These considerations will plague all of the interpretations that we devise for the results of a miracle, so long as we credit God for the action. We will not be able to conceive of any way in which this outcome could be an omni being's project. And if there does not appear to be any way that this could be God's act, then it is reasonable to conclude that God didn't do it. We should infer that at the very most, if a real violation of the laws of nature occurs, and we have good reasons to believe it did, the strongest conclusion we could get from that evidence is some force greater than us, but less than God, was responsible. We should not infer from a miracle alone that the cause is a single personal being with infinite power, knowledge, and goodness. One objection the Christian may offer to the argument that God wouldn't perform miracles is that God's motives and plans are mysterious to us. So we shouldn't conclude that some real miracle was not brought about by their God. If a miracle occurs, we should be agnostic about the responsible party or parties instead of accepting the stronger conclusion that God didn't do it. God's knowledge and power will be too far beyond our comprehension for us to be confident that we could tell the difference between his actions and some events that appear to have limited scope. In effect, if God acts, then we won't understand it. So we should refrain from drawing strong conclusions about how God will act. Before we analyze this rebuttal, it should be noted how far we've come from here, from the common position that miracles provide us with evidence for the existence of God. This critic seems to have acknowledged many of the limitations of the case in favor of a divine author, a difficult position for most Christians and many other religious believers. If real miracles were to occur and we knew it, should we be agnostic about the possibility that an omni being did it? I'll ask the question again. If real miracles were to occur and we knew it, should we be agnostic about the possibility that an omni being did it? I would say we should not. We should be we should be in the position of fuck no. There no, because even if a miracle did occur, some violation of nature uh for which we have no explanation, would not immediately lend itself to being the act of an omni being, period. Because it could still just be some lesser god of limited power is responsible and not necessarily an omni god. So there's that. I mean, how do you know God didn't, you know, uh what do you call it when you fucking like delegate? How do we know God didn't delegate the task of creation or anything else, making souls and all that shit? How do you know he didn't delegate that task to some lesser God, some lesser being who isn't all knowing and all powerful, powerful enough to do the shit God wanted him to do? The fuck am I paying y'all for? Get to work, motherfucker. What, you think Steve Jobs fucking came up with the fucking iPhone? Fuck no. He was like, yo, I got an idea. You motherfuckers get to work on it and make some shit up, make it happen, goddamn. I'm funding it all. So I get to take all the credit. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that Steve Jobs wasn't a visionary. I'm not saying he wasn't a gifted person at what he did. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying he ain't come with all that shit. He ain't do it. He wasn't the guy. He might have just came up with the concept. You know what I mean? But it was a lot of people behind the scenes doing the real work who got no credit for their contributions or very limited credit. I mean, you don't know their fucking names. So there's that. This blunt keep going out because I don't think I stuffed it well enough. You know what I mean? Why would this power care about us forms? Why would it care about this specific life piece that became humans? You know what I'm saying? Like, why wouldn't it care about fish or some shit? You know, motherfuckers always like to say it's so fine-tuned, this earth, for us to be here, that's proof God did or whatever the fuck. Why do you assume that it was so fine-tuned for us, motherfucker? We can't exist most places on this motherfucker. You know what I mean? Not without a whole bunch of help that ain't natural in the environment, goddammit. Like, how do you know it wasn't for the people or for the fucking marine life? Like, there's more water on this planet than there is land, goddammit. So how do you know the fucking earth wasn't fine-tuned for the fish? And we just were, you know, we just got the benefit from that. Like, oh shit, that's what's up. Like, how you know God isn't a fish god? Maybe Jaws is Jesus. You know what I mean? Or maybe not. I'm just saying. Oh, fuck. All right, where the fuck was we, bro? Sounds good here. Try a refresh. Why? We did evolve from fish. I mean, you know what I'm saying, though. You know what I mean? Like, we all essentially came from fish. What is a fish? Right. The mere possibility being argued for by the Christian doesn't amount to much. What the critic is suggesting is that there is an infinitely powerful, knowing, and good being out there. And from its perspective, there are limiting factors or reasons that motivate it to perform actions that are indistinguishable from our perspective from the actions of a lesser being. The beyond our comprehension stretches credibility here. The argument I have given takes the notion of God very seriously and explores the implications of what it would be to have God's power, knowledge, and goodness. We have some concrete reasoning to think that when those properties manifest themselves in the world, the results should not just look like the results that a being who doesn't have those properties would achieve. The critic is pressing for a suspension of judgment about how God would act on the possibility that some unknown factors would confine him to acting in a decidedly ungodlike fashion. Without some more substantial explanation or some positive reasons to think that such limiting factors are real, the possibility is not enough to overcome the incompatibilities that have been outlined. We have several substantial reasons to doubt that an omni being would act by means of miracles. The nebulous possibility that it has some reasons that we don't understand might justify our holding off concluding that an omni being wouldn't perform miracles if one, we were sure no other independent grounds that such a being exists, and two, we had good reason to think that it performs miracles. The biblical grounds, as we have seen, are not sufficient to the task. Furthermore, notice that the believer cannot claim that miracles are evidence that God is real, while simultaneously asserting that the motives, goals, power, knowledge, and goodness behind those miracles are mysterious and inaccessible to us. If we cannot read off some properties of the responsible force from the event, then we cannot claim to have proven the existence or character of that force. So, I mean, that's just logically true. You know what I mean? And I get it. Christians aren't concerned with logic. Otherwise, they wouldn't be Christians. Many of the discussions between believers, and this is the conclusion, by the way, many of the discussions between believers and non believers about miracles have missed some fundamental points. And here's the main takeaway: even if miracles are real, neither omnipotence, nor omniscience, nor omnibenevolence are necessary in order to perform that miracle. Nor should we assume that the cause of a miracle is a single conscious personal being. So even if one happens, we won't be able to infer God's existence from the mere fact that it happened. I have also argued that an omni being would not employ miracles to achieve its ends. Therefore, the occurrence of a miracle should not be construed as evidence for the existence of a God. The problems for Christianity created by this analysis of miracles are momentous. Jesus is thought to be the Son of God, and through Jesus, God is alleged to have given expression to his will. The resurrection of Jesus and Jesus's other miracles are widely accepted by Christians to be manifestations of and proof of his divinity. But by considering the sorts of acts in which an omni being would engage, we have seen that we just cannot make sense of connecting miracles to the will or actions of a being that has the properties that God is alleged to have. In earlier chapters, we saw that our evidence for the resurrection of Jesus is too flimsy to be trusted. But now it's clear that even if the resurrection and the other miracles of Jesus are real, there are good reasons to think that they cannot be attributed to God. Moreover, if Jesus' miraculous acts are disconnected from God, then Christianity is undermined on one of its essential doctrines. By extension, all religious movements that assert the existence of a God whose capacities outstrip miracles are undermined. Miracles don't cohere with omni beings. So there are more reasons to be skeptical about a whole class of theistic beliefs. With these theistic beliefs undermined and with natural explanations as better accounts of the origins of these religions, the justification for atheism grows broader and deeper. I love it. Chapter 10, 500 Dead Gods and the Problem of Other Religions. You know what I mean? I had a great time with you. Bye. Thanks, Theo. It's good seeing you. Sorry, I can't read your full message, so I'm just gonna bump, 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 bump. Not sure if you're talking science or anything like that, but I need logic. Yeah, I know what you mean. We used to be nematodes, man, but humans are so egotistical they don't want to believe it. Yeah, there is that. You know what I mean? Humans evolved from an ancestral ape lineage and therefore are still apes. We evolved through mutations over a long period. Very true, Boogietron. Oh, wow. It's funny you say that. So, in this chapter, look right here. You see this? Hold on, let me turn that. You see all those names that start with A? Those are all gods. And like, because he's about to like list a shit ton of gods that humans have invented. In 1922, H.L. Mencken wrote an essay called Memorial Service, in which he sought to make a point about the preponderance of gods and religions in history that have fallen out of favor. Mencken gives a long list of these gods. I have supplemented Mencken's compilation for a list of 500, but there are many more. So we have Abil, Adieu again, Adiona, Jasu Linguator, Ejinaku, Adia Huntiu, Agasiu, so on and so forth, so on and so forth, so on and so forth. In closing, Mencken says, they were gods of the highest dignity, gods of civilized peoples, worshipped and believed in by millions. All were omnipotent, omniscient, and immortal, and all are dead. Mencken, as he was prone, is making more of a rhetorical point here than a careful philosophical one. What does Mencken's dead mean here? He means that people believed in all of these gods, but they were never real. More recently, Richard Dawkins, Daniel Dennett, Sam Harris, and Christopher Hitchens, among others, have made a similar appeal. Quote, an atheist is just somebody who feels about Yahweh the way any decent Christian feels about Thor or Baal or the golden calf. As has been said before, we are all atheists about most of the gods that humanity has ever believed in. Some of us just go one god further. How do these dead gods cast a doubtful light on Christianity? How is it that all of these so called dead gods have any bearing on one particular religion's claim to worship the one true living God? Many non believers seem to appreciate the point immediately when it is suggested, but many Christian believers are unfazed. The believer's retort is often along the lines of, those other gods aren't real, and they never were. My God is the only true God, and it is not a primitive superstition. In this chapter, we'll discuss the argument lurking behind the list of dead gods and the I'm just an atheist about one more God than you are comment. There are some compelling reasons to doubt Christianity here and theism in general, but they need to be drawn out with some care. And then here's another sub fucking contextual exegesis. Settle the question. I'll pause it right there for a second. You know what I mean? Because I low key want to see like who else is live, so I can maybe just jump on their shit. You know what I'm saying? I mostly went live this time to check out to test out this microphone rather, just to see how it performs. Because I'm not exactly sure how to operate it yet. You know what I mean? Like it's like I know this is the mute button. Let me see. So you shouldn't be able to hear me after I push this. What I just said was, I don't know if you can hear me, but you shouldn't be able to hear me. So hopefully that mute worked. I don't fucking know if any of this works. I gotta watch this video back after I upload the live. Anywho, let me see what y'all talking about. So what? 100 million years ago is when humans started walking the earth. I mean, science proves all life on Earth evolved from microbes made mainly of water. Humans didn't just arrive on Earth overnight. It went nematodes, fish, reptiles, mammals, apes, humans over the course of billions of years. Oh, I get it. Dog, I come in peace to ask as to why you don't follow the Lord. I was going to say which Lord, but given that you have Christ is my Lord in your name, I'm just going to assume Christ, Jesus. But what was your question? I come in peace to ask why you don't follow the Lord. What about the Lord do you want me to follow? I mean, because to be honest, I could ask you the same question. Why don't you follow your Lord? Christians are notorious for being hypocritical, sanctimonious cunts who do not do what Jesus instructed. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you're one of those, but I'm just saying this has been my experience with Christians. So I could ask you that. Why don't you follow your Lord? I don't follow your Lord because I don't believe that your Lord exists. Even if I were to concede that Jesus as a human being existed at one point or another and was crucified for whatever the fucking charges were against him, it would not at all substantiate any of the supernatural claims associated with him or any of those associated with the Bible at all. So, I mean, many people have lived, many people have died, many people have been venerated, many people have died for their beliefs. Shit that never happened. So it just is what it is, dog. There's no compelling evidence that would persuade a skeptic to believe in the existence of the supernatural. You know what I mean? And you don't have any either. I don't even know why you believe it. I mean, I know why you do because you're credulous, but outside of that, I don't know why you believe it. And I don't say credulous to be like like a dig or nothing. I just mean that it is what it is. Credulous just means you just readily accept some shit. You know what I mean? Just easy to believe. You know what I mean? I mean, because clearly you must be. There's not a shred of evidence to substantiate any of the supernatural claims made throughout the Bible, and yet you believe it anyway. So, you know what I mean? Credulous, motherfucker. I understand where you come from, but I must add that those who go against him, knowing what they are doing, is hurting others or going against God. They are not Christian. I will not force Christ upon you. I mean, you can't anyway. You know what I mean? You could try, but it would be a futile endeavor because I'm just too learned to believe any of that nonsense. You know what I mean? Like, and many people have tried. I mean, I did grow up a Jehovah's Witness. We read the Bible often. You know what I mean? And so I had to evangelize. I had to know what I was doing. I had to know what I was talking about. But I didn't really read it like that for real, if I'm being honest. It wasn't until I became an atheist that I really started to do uh, some of the historical analysis on the Bible and exegesis and that kind of shit. You know what I mean? And so, in order to cross reference what I'm studying with what is in the Bible, I had to read it. So I got like, and I'm not gonna act like I got like all kind of Bibles here. I have two physical Bibles. I got the Book of Mormon, you know what I mean, and I have a regular uh New World Translation of the Living Scriptures, which again is the Jehovah's Witness Bible. But I also have the Bible app on my phone. So I typically reference the NIV, the NRSV UE, that is the NRSV updated edition, or I'll use the NRSV anglicized or the Catholic edition, you know, but not the King James because that's a poor translation. So there's that. Stop smoking. Hell no. Nah. Fuck off if you don't like it. The Bible is so absurd. I agree. But this weed, dog, ain't nothing wrong with weed. I was gonna tell you what strain it is, but I think I threw the thing away. It's right here. This strain called London Candy. London Candy. THC 29.91%. That's quite a bit. You know what I mean? It says the flavor profile is candy, herbal, earthy, and it is a hybrid. So there's that. And it's definitely a hybrid because that ain't all that's in this. Like this mixed with some other shit. I just don't remember what the other shit was. It's just fire. Well, the Bible is absurd because it is. You know what I mean? It's not like it's objectively absurd. It's contradictory as hell. You know what I mean? Like there was one, I can't remember the name of the king, but there's a contradiction in the scriptures where in one part of the Bible it says that he was killed in Megiddo, and then they took his dead corpse to to Jerusalem and buried him there. But then there's another story in the Bible, same guy, except this time he's only wounded on the battlefield, and then he dies once they get to Jerusalem. So both accounts of that story cannot be true. The same guy either died on the battlefield and then was buried in Jerusalem, or he died once they got to Jerusalem and then they buried him there. But it can't both be true. But that's just one of the many stupid fucking contradictions that exist throughout the Bible. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, the only way that one could reconcile Jesus's whole fucking love your neighbor and all that carrying on, which was just, again, he was just paraphrasing Leviticus 19. But when he said to love your neighbor, And yet in Leviticus, just 6 chapters later, you're told that you can go ahead and enslave those motherfuckers over there. And it's like, well, hold on then. So clearly the slaves aren't my neighbors because you're not, because God didn't want you to make slaves of your fellow Israelites. I mean, of course, he would allow it. He just didn't like it, which is why he had separate rules from when you were to enslave your fellow Israelites than if you were to enslave someone from another country. So, yeah, because you had to ask yourself, like, well, because if Jesus meant love your neighbor and neighbor meant everybody, well, then there's a contradiction. Either I'm loving everybody or I'm allowed to make slaves of those people in those nations that surround me, as was told to me by God in Leviticus 25, verses 44 through 46. You know what I mean? And same thing with Exodus 21, where he starts off the first half of that chapter describing the rules for pretty much Israelites, if you want to enslave them or the different kinds, you know what I mean? Like you got to let them go after 7 years and all that bullshit. However, if it's a female, completely different rules. Like, nah, you can keep that bitch forever. You know what I mean? Like she's just yours, son. Like, nah, like a male Israelite, you can let him go after 7 years. It's a female. Nope. Not if he wanted, you know what I'm saying? Not if the slave owner wants to keep her. Nah, son, you ain't going nowhere. So there was different rules for female Israelite slaves, Israelite male slaves, and then also if you were an Israelite. So that's why Exodus 21, you know what I'm saying? Verse 20 and 19 and 20, I think it is, where it's like you can beat your male and female slaves with a rod and nothing is to happen to you. Now, if you beat them and they die immediately, well, then you are to be punished. But if they don't die for a few days, like they cling to life for a couple days and then they die, then you are not to be punished because the slave is your money, as some translations say that. Other translations say because the slave is your property. So yeah, the Bible God says you can have slaves and you can beat them to death as long as they stay alive for a few days. And you can make slaves out of the females. Just like he said in Deuteronomy 20, verses 10 through 20, where he's like, check it out. If you go up to a city and I want you to take it over, make them a peace offering. And if they accept your peace offering, then they are to become your fucking slaves. They are to work forced labor for free. That's what your God said. And then he was like, but if they're like, hell no, this is our city. What you mean you about to just take it over? No, we're going to fight you for it. We're going to stand our ground and fight you. And he says, and if they do that, kill them all. Kill everything. He was like, except you are allowed to keep the little girls for yourselves. Because, of course, you know what I mean? God loves a little bit of child sexual misconduct. You know what I mean? He loves telling you to take them little girls who haven't known a man by lying with them and do with them as you please. You know what I mean? He was like, or if you go there and you kill all the men and shit, and then you come across one of the girls, and it's like you want to make her your wife. It's like you got to give her like a week or 30 days or some shit to like mourn her father and all the people you just murdered off. Give her like a month, shave her head, you know what I mean, and then marry that bitch and she's yours. It's like your God is disgusting. Okay. Disgusting. He is completely indifferent towards human life. Matter of fact, no, he holds human life as anathema. You know what I mean? Which is even worse than being indifferent. Because if he was indifferent, he wouldn't care one way or the other. But he clearly cares. You know what I mean? Because he had to make sure the shit got written down. You know what I mean? If you rape a bitch and she don't scream loud enough, that's her fault. He was like, and if you get found out, all you got to do is pay her dad 50 shekels of silver and marry her. You can never divorce her. Because motherfuck how she feels about being raped. You know what I mean? God's like, I don't give a fuck about you being raped, bitch. This is a man-centered book. Okay. So all the man has to do is buy you from your father for 50 fucking shekels of silver and marry you. But hey, he can never leave you alone. He can never divorce you. He can beat the shit out of you, though. You know, because you're his property, essentially, just like a slave would be. Because women are essentially equal to cattle in the fucking in the Bible. You know what I mean? Only men matter, essentially. That's why I think it was in what Corinthians or Timothy where Paul's like, look, man was formed by God. Women were formed from man. Okay. So you are subordinate to man because of that, just like man is subordinate to God. So I'm just trying to tell you, like, y'all are clearly lower than us. Women are, you know what I mean? At least according to the Bible, God. But there's no reason to believe any of that because clearly the morals of this God reflect the people who lived at that time. So, of course, just like if we were to invent a God today, he'd probably be all like on the internet doing TikToks and shit. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what the fuck we're all doing. We're all fucking zonked out watching fucking doom scrolling TikTok and carrying on. I'm like, there's no reason to suggest that the God we'd come up with wouldn't be any fucking different. He'd probably fucking, you know what I mean? Like shit, like or whatever we value. You know what I'm saying? Like we would probably have rules, like we would come up with a God that wants to protect trans people, where like the God of the Bible had no concept of a trans person. You know what I'm saying? So there was no rules against it necessarily. He didn't necessarily agree with cross-dressing, because that was, I think, like mentioned in there, but being trans ain't cross-dressing. So it's not the same. But yeah, essentially all I'm saying is that if we were to invent a God in modern times, it would look much different than the God that was invented 2000 fucking years ago, you know, that reflect the ignorance of the people that lived then. Like y'all thought it was something to like have a motherfucker walk on water and feed thousands of people with a loaf or two loaves or whatever. I'm like, bro, that only sounds appealing to people who have hard time getting access to food. So like, no, he was able to feed all of us with just a few loaves. It's like we're not that concerned about that. Like getting access to food is not one of our priorities. We're concerned about other shit. Like how can we live longer? Just like every life, you know. But you dumb dumbs want to suggest want to believe that you can live after life, like which don't even make fucking sense because life is this thing. So afterlife, there's not even a term for it. It's just the afterlife. What is afterlife? What is that? You know, you don't fucking know. And life after death don't make any fucking sense. Not if we're talking about the same life that just died. Ain't no life after for you, motherfucker. Shit's over. Pack it up. The party's gonna go on, but you gotta go. You gotta go. That's what it's like. You know what I mean? You gotta go. Not only do you gotta leave, not only do you gotta leave the party, but you gotta leave and immediately go to sleep. You just never wake up. But also, you won't have any memories of the party, which is kind of cool. You know what I mean? So you won't miss anything. You won't be like, oh fuck, I wish I was still alive, man. So I could still be doing that. You know what I mean? Like you'll be fucking dead. You have no knowledge of what's going on with the party. You're just it's like the party never happened. You know what I mean? And that's what's up. I can live with that. Doesn't fucking matter if I can live with it. I mean, if I had a problem with it, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, but that's still the reality. As far as we know, we don't have any evidence to the contrary. And by the contrary, I mean that people can live after they've been declared dead and beyond. Like, you know, once the brain has died, the heart is done. Like, it's over. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is no coming back. You know what I mean? So, I don't know what to tell you, especially after 3 days. It is a wrap after 3 days. You are not because decomposition would have already started kicking in. It's over. Like you're not about to get what? You don't even know what that looked like. What does it even look like to resurrect a motherfucker? What does that look like? What is the blood and water and all that, and the organs and the tissue all just gonna like magically go back to how it was, or better even? Fuck out of here. You don't know. You're like, yeah, that's exactly how. Shut the fuck up. I just made that shit up off the top of my head. Get the hell out of here. That shit's whack. Surely an omniscient God come up with something better than I just came up with off the fucking fly. Get the hell out of here. Anyway, what sort of communist do you identify as? A real one? Why, man? What you mean, what kind of communist? A communist, motherfucker. You mean, am I like a Marxist, Leninist, Maoist? You know what I mean? Yes. So, but I would ask, do you even know what communism is? Like, do you know what the principles of communism are? What are the aims of communism? As opposed to what you think you know. Because you could just be honest, like, I don't really know. I haven't looked it up. I haven't studied communist theory. All I know is what I've heard. That would be the honest response. Love a good no true Scotsman. Oh, you already know. Well, either way, I'll pray for you all. I love it. Christians who have no argument, no coherent refutation of my points, always just either resort back to, well, I'm just going to pray anyway. That's a concession, in my opinion. Or they just, well, you're still going to hell. Or, well, you're still fucking, you know what I mean? Like, y'all just have nothing going on, dog. It's so pathetic. That's why I don't engage in debates with Christians. It's a waste of time because they're not concerned with logic or evidence or a rational argument. They're just not. Because again, they're not an evidence-based operation. Christianity is a faith-based operation. They believe shit with no fucking evidence supporting that belief, but they believe it anyway, which doesn't even make sense. I don't even truly believe that Christians believe the shit they purport to believe. I think they just accept the doctrine. You know what I mean? They'll just say that they believe it, but you don't really believe it. You really don't. Especially the Christians who say that their God is always watching, then you really don't believe that. You better hope. I hope you're lying about that. Because if you really think your God is watching at all times and you have the gall to ever do anything outside of what that God wants you to do, you are just blatantly disrespectful. You're just giving your God the middle fucking finger. How dare you? You know what I mean? Like, let me be in elementary school and I know my mom and dad. Okay, let me just keep it real. And I know my mom is in the room in the back of the class with her eyes locked on me. I am not about to do anything out of the line. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to be raising my hand. I'm not about to be talking to nobody. I'm not about to be on my phone. None of that shit. I'm about, yes, Mrs. Such and all that shit. I'm going from one class immediately to the next because I can't even go fuck around in the bathroom because she'll be there too because she's always watching. You know what I mean? So I'm going to be on my utmost best behavior. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that Christians are not on their utmost best behavior means that they don't really believe that their God is watching all the time, or they think they can just say, fuck you, God, on a regular basis, and he'll just forgive them each time because their God is inconsistent. You know what I mean? So it's one or the other. And I choose to give Christians a little bit of leeway and just say, you're just deluding yourself. You don't really believe that because there's no shot you would be behaving the way you are and truly hold that position. Because if so, you just don't give a fuck about your God, dude. Can you imagine? I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine knowing my mom, who was an authoritative. She was the kind of mom that'll like whoop us with belts and shit. You know what I'm saying? So she's an authoritative, you'll do what I say type of mom. She was scary. You know what I'm saying? And if I know she's in the classroom and I still just act up, I'm just asking for it. You know what I'm saying? At this point, it's like, so that's how I feel Christians are. If you really truly believe your God is always watching and you got the fucking nerve to do even one thing that goes against the teachings of Jesus or the fucking 10 Commandments or any of the Mosaic laws, to be honest, then you are just completely disrespecting your God to his face. I fucking love it. That's why I'm like, all you Christians are going to hell. If there is one, I know you believe there is. And I believe that since you believe it, that you fucking go in there because y'all can't be bothered to do what the fuck Jesus taught y'all to do. You can't fucking be bothered. I got all the verses, son. All the verses where it's just one after the next. It's just evidence after one thing that Jesus said that I know Christians don't do after the next that I know Christians don't do because Christians can't be bothered, A, to read the Bible to find out what the fuck Jesus said to do and not to do. And B, therefore, don't do any of those things. So I don't know what to tell you Christians, man. Y'all need to get it together for your sake. Okay, because the rest of us, as atheists, as skeptics, are just watching y'all laughing. You know what I mean? Because y'all are so fucking ridiculous, hypocritical, sanctimonious, and just ignorant of science as all get out. Like, it's laughable. At least it would be if it weren't so deleterious to the progression of society in the 21st fucking century. But anyhow, I digress. I'm gonna fucking get off here, y'all. I appreciate y'all watching, man. Because I could go all day with this shit. You know what I mean? I could rail against Christianity. I could continue to eat this fucking novice ass Christian up in the chat. But where's the fun in that? It's like beating up on a child. It's like, I know you can't beat me. You know what I'm saying? You're not equipped for this discussion. You don't know your Bible. Okay? So it would behoove you get the fuck off the internet and go read your fucking Bible. Okay? Start at the Old Testament, the part of the Bible y'all just completely fucking ignore, even though it completely informs the New Testament, at least it's supposed to. Because that would be in your best interest to learn what it is your fucking Heavenly Father tells you. You know what I mean? Because I know what he wants from y'all, and I know that's why I know y'all ain't doing it. Y'all too busy trying to like do something else. I don't fucking know. Y'all too busy trying to be yourselves or be Republicans or Democrats or whatever the fuck. Like any of that shit matters. God said, nah, son. Sell all your shit off, give it to the poor, follow me, or you can't call yourself a follower of Jesus and you ain't sold off your shit and gave the money to the poor. Fuck you mean? You can't even be my follower if you don't hate your father and your mother and your sister and your brother. Fuck all of them. It's only loyalty to me. You know what I'm saying? And y'all ain't doing that. Jesus said in Matthew, like, don't worry about your life. And yet, you Christians be having guns and locks and passcodes and all kinds of shit. He said, don't worry about none of that shit. You know what I'm saying? He said, don't even store up for yourself shit on earth that could be stolen or that could get rusted. You know what I'm saying? It's like, don't store up that shit. So what the fuck you got a safe for? What you protecting? He said, don't store up nothing. He said, you should be storing up treasures in heaven, motherfucker. Fuck you doing? Hell out of here. If you got money to spend, then that's money you could have been donating to help feed a motherfucker. Because Jesus also said that. He was like, that's how you fed me when you fed the poor. You know what I'm saying? But I bet you ain't feeding the poor, motherfucker. Shit. Y'all too busy buying fucking Starbucks bears and fucking Stanley tumblers and goddamn, y'all too busy spending money on your fucking selves. Y'all look, just like this Christmas, y'all about to spend all kind of money on stupid ass fucking shit. Basically shit that Jesus said, don't store for yourself shit that can get stolen or rust. Store for yourself treasures in heaven. But you're not going to do that. You know what I'm saying? You're going to continue to add to Jeff Bezos's coffers as opposed to your heavenly coffers. Fucking hypocrites. I love you, Christians, man. Y'all are an endless pool of stupidity from which I can always drink for sustenance because you motherfuckers are yummy in my fucking tummy with your stupid fucking logic and your tears. Bring the tears in my comments, please. I love it. I am satiated by it, as I've made abundantly clear in other videos. I'm about to go now, y'all. I appreciate y'all watching. You know what I'm saying? Fuck your God of X. And I'm out.